Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm just doing my first one. I just wanted to cover some topics that I've been discussing a lot with some of my clients recently, some e-commerce brands that I've been working with, and I just wanted to share some of the conversations that have been going on early part of 2019. So the top three areas that I've been talking to people about early part of 2019 is looking at the channel mix, looking at what the focus is for this year, where's best to get the ROI, because a lot of e-commerce brands, a lot of retail businesses are obviously questioning their existing marketing budget, just with what's going on in the market, everything that's going on in the UK in general. So there's a lot of kind of change, a lot of uncertainty. So a lot of businesses are being quite, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say tight, but they're being extra cautious with where they want to put their money and where they can see a return on investment. And I think as an agency and as someone who works with e-commerce businesses day in, day out, there's a lot of justification going on right now. Why do you need to invest into Instagram stories? Why do you need to produce a lot more video content? So yeah, I think where the market's at the moment, we definitely need to make sure that you're making the right decisions, because that budget isn't going to go as far as it used to. But I think the kind of three key areas that I wanted to talk about on this podcast was first and foremost, the channel mix. Where are you spending your money? What's the best return on investment? Secondly, the website roadmap. Early part of the year, it's quite common for people to go ahead and kind of look at the year ahead and plan out what they want to do and what they want to achieve that year. And then the third area really is content. It's something that won't go away. Although a lot of people want to find quick shortcuts, there is no shortcut around it. So those are the three main areas that I wanted to discuss today. In 2019, it's a very different world in terms of e-commerce than it was in 2014. A lot of people are still having conversations around last click, which channels are driving the most value from a direct revenue driving perspective. But I just wanted to lay out some ideas that will help kind of combat that, either to people internally, e-commerce brands, or to agencies, or people working with e-commerce businesses. I genuinely believe that 2019 and even 2018, to large majority of it, was really the year of the assisted channel. A lot of the channels that we work on were generally kind of warming up warming up the end user or the customer to try and get them to purchase over a period of time. Now, obviously, Facebook and Google say that it takes 3 to 6 visits, before someone converts in a modern day e-commerce journey. And I think that because people spend the majority of the time on a mobile phone, I think you're finding that, you might look at a story on Instagram, then see a post on Facebook, then hit a remarketing ad while you're on through Google AdWords, like a dynamic display ad or something like that. All the while you got YouTube in the background as well, people visiting websites, looking at products, doing a price comparison. There are so many different kind of complicated user journeys that people are going down in the modern day. I think it's very dangerous for people to go all in on one channel. So go all in on PPC, or go all in on paid social, or email marketing, or whatever that might be. So for me, I think you need to change your mindset in terms of an e-commerce brand. There's a lot of brand awareness channels out there that don't necessarily drive a lot of direct conversions, but from the experiments that we've run, you do see uplift in brand traffic, uplift in branded, kind of homepage website searches through Google. When you run campaigns through, channels that don't necessarily have a click through. I know the shoppable Instagram now, but all the stories, Snapchat, a couple of the other kind of top of the funnel channels where you're actually trying to reach new audiences, sometimes that doesn't have a direct click through. And I think that you just have to accept that in 2019. And the best thing that I can think of is to make sure that you've got your remarketing funnel laid out, planned out, so everyone in the organization actually understands exactly what a funnel looks like. I want to say funnel, obviously there's a traditional funnel more around building awareness, then getting people to engage with your content, and then the level after that is obviously trying to get them to convert. And we also add in, just as an aside as well, when we're working with clients, a fourth layer to that, which is not necessarily retention, but remarketing. So if we don't get someone to convert, how can we use the bottom of the funnel to get people to remarket, and then after that, obviously retain people. So a key focus in those 5 areas. And I think that one of the things that allows us to do that, and the teams that I work with anyway, is when you have a singular team with autonomy across all of those channels. I think a lot of brands, a lot of e-commerce businesses, and I've had it myself so many times, you start dealing with people and there's other agencies involved or an in-house team, and everyone gets a bit competitive, and that it's not really conducive to a kind of productive e-commerce brand, that working with lots of different disparate teams, across different areas. So for me, I like to try and create an extension of the in-house team. So we provide additional things, over and above, just to kind of go that extra mile with clients to try and establish a trust and a relationship. So you can work on more channels, because, like I said right at the top, if you're working on multiple channels, that's the modern day e-commerce journey. So I think one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is they go, oh, I'll work with those guys on PPC, those guys will do my content, these guys will do my organic, these guys are doing my video. I think that you need to bring some of that in-house. You need to work with a limited amount of agencies or partners as possible. Then that should hopefully help you achieve, your long-term goals in this kind of multi kind of channel mix within the modern day e-commerce. The second key area, and a lot of brands that I work with, it's generally, a massive pain point, is the actual website itself. E-commerce businesses, especially startups, if they've not got a lot of tech knowledge in the business, they're just like, why can't I do this? Or why is it like this? Everything's so difficult, it costs so much money. And I think that, a lot of people's frustration when it comes to websites is, first and foremost, a bit of lack of education. So people don't necessarily know if you don't know the actual website platform itself, and if you've not done the work to actually find out about what the options are that you have, what the limitations are that you have based on the platform that you have available, I think it can be a frustrating time. And at the end of the day, business owners just want to see a return on investment. So a lot of what I'm about to cover in this section really, kind of common issues that happen with websites, especially e-commerce websites that that I deal with, generally starts with not having a plan or a roadmap. So some brands and businesses feel like they're just going along and putting money into it, and you might not necessarily see a direct uplift in sales. It might be something that's just more of a housekeeping thing, or helping for optimization, site speed, which is going to yield it hopefully in website conversions further down the line. But I think the most important thing is you need a prioritization of a roadmap. So with roadmaps, website roadmaps, obviously e-commerce context, generally speaking, there's a lot of brands that don't break this down. I think it's okay to have an overarching roadmap, but I think that needs to be broken down into, what are you doing from a front end perspective? How are you optimizing your checkout? How are you split testing your category landing pages for inbound marketing traffic? What are you doing on the product detail page to try and improve conversions? A lot of brands don't even have reviews on the site. They don't have some of the basics really, ticking the basics in terms of, reviews on the site, because the whole, obviously, it's great in terms of social proofing, but also it's also a massive kind of ranking factor in Google to enable your product detail pages to rank quite highly for long tail keyword phrases. So if people are typing in blue bomber jacket, large Benz, you're more likely to get a conversion from those people and going after the lower end of the traffic. So a lot of people look at the website and they're not covering the basics, but they are getting frustrated. Another thing that just absolutely is just rife in startup businesses in particular, is updating the site on a regular basis. The need to update your homepage on a regular basis, the need to update your offers, your blog, your content, category pages, how you're merchandising your categories, what products you're featuring on your homepage, what products you're featuring in your content. There's all of these things that people just sit there and expect people to come to you. And I think that when people do, when you do make the time and effort and the investment often, to get people to the website, you should be making that website work as hard as possible to convert. And I think that really starts with a persona map. So when you're running any e-commerce brand, that there are a lot of businesses, actually some really good businesses that I've worked with in the past, where they've got a full map of who their customers are and their persona base. And what they do is they don't build their website based on what the latest trend is. They build their website backwards from who their customers are and who their personas are, where the revenue is being generated, or new markets that they want to go into. And then that actually establishes, their map in general, but also, how you talk on the website, how edgy you are, how you might look at, different types of content that you're displaying. So, for example, if you're aiming at a younger demographic, you generally, if you're not producing video content, you're going to lose those people. You're obviously not going to enable yourself to get to where you need to be from an engagement level perspective, because these guys aren't going to go on and read product descriptions. They're literally going to go on, consume your content, see if they like it, if the price is right, but then convert. So I think a lot of the persona mapping and knowing who your customers are and who your website is aimed at is a massive step that a lot of people still don't do. I think that's a very minimum, just as a starting point for anybody that's like, I don't know what a persona map is. Well, firstly, Google it and go and have a look at it. But if you're struggling with it and you've not got a lot of time, the 3 key areas that I generally start with any e-commerce business are, people who know what they want. So the first persona is, I know what I want. I just want to go on and convert. So these are your kind of returning visits, or somebody who's purchased your type of product before. If you're selling a particular product in retail or garment or whatever, they know what they want. So in reality, this persona needs a good search, they need clear signposting, a good navigation, and they need to get straight through to the checkout, quick and easy payment options, all that kind of stuff. So the first persona, generally like base level, is I know what I want and I want to convert. The second one is somebody that we describe more as a looking for inspiration kind of person. So they're coming to the website, but actually they don't know who you are as a brand. They're just interested in certain things. So if they're interested in fashion, they might just be coming onto your site just to get, see what's going on in the brand, what kind of products you stock, what kind of categories. So you'll find a lot of browsing, a lot of engagement with content. And really what you should be doing if you've got a high proportion of people looking for inspiration is create a lot of shoppable content. And then the third one is really, a new market or a new person who you want to target. So the first one is they know what they're talking, they know what they're looking for. The second one is they know they don't know what they're looking for, but they're actually, interested in your sector, your product, your type of product. And then the third really is a new sector. So a lot of people say, oh, I want to target a younger demographic, or they might say, I want to target an older demographic. So in reality, you need to think about where you're landing those people on the site. And I think too many retail brands out there don't create specific destinations for their personas. So if you're targeting a specific new demographic, and just say that is a younger generation, because a lot of brands say to us, "Oh, I want to target millennials or zillennials or whatever." If you're driving people to a specific page and it doesn't work well on a mobile phone, you're dead in the water. You have to make sure that you've got really strong content on your mobile optimized devices if you're driving people through to specific pages, and also making sure that you're capturing their attention right at the top of the page. Because obviously this generation will be used to scrolling and used to going through consuming other pieces of content, and to be honest with you, you've probably got 10 seconds to actually capture their attention. So these are the kinds of things that you really need to think out and plan out that are specific to your kind of e-commerce business. So yeah, the kind of third and final point on the kind of website roadmap and website planning in 2019 is you need to have data-driven decisions. A lot of people go out there and go, I want to build this site and I really like ASOS, or I really like this other website, or these are doing it really well. And it's just so frustrating. Get over that. Get over your competition and start to look more at your customers than your competition. is your business trying to achieve, and what's working on your existing website? Too many people don't want to do the kind of data mining, or not data mining, but um, too many people don't want to put the graft in to actually go and take a look at, what's converting well, what categories are converting well. Is it because of the product selection? Is it because of the page layout, the description, the title, the type of traffic that you send to it? You've really got to get into your analytics. You've got to use tools like Hotjar, which is a free, for those who don't know, Hotjar is like a free heat mapping software. Um, we generally use it on the homepage, on a key category hero page, and also in the checkout to look at customer behavior, because it does like a nice heat mapping thing across all different devices. Because we often find that a lot of businesses, when they're looking at the data, they'll just be looking at like overarching, when in reality, I think you need to go device specific, and I think you need to take a look at what channels are driving to that page. So if you're running a lot of Facebook ads, you're going to get a lot of mobile traffic. And if your website isn't performing well on a mobile device, no wonder your conversion rate's poor. So, these are the kind of things. So data-driven decisions, persona mapping, and make sure you've got a website roadmap that covers front end, mobile, content, all these other things. So they're the main things that I can recommend this year at a very high level for website roadmaps. Last but not least, content. That's the third area I wanted to cover around e-commerce businesses planning for 2019. In reality, if you're looking at content this year, it's something that a lot of people are putting off, or they don't want to invest into, or they're spending a lot of time and effort and not getting a good return on investment. And for me, again, it comes down to good planning, but also making sure that you're ready for the modern day content kind of production in 2019. The breakthrough year for me was really end of 2017 going into 2018 in terms of people needing to mass produce content. And the thing is around that, if you're not careful, it can cost a lot of money. I know a lot of businesses that have invested in a lot of content but don't think about what they're going to do with it afterwards. And the brands that are really succeeding they're not doing a shoot or doing a piece of video and then trying to figure out what to do with it afterwards. What they do is they plan their shoot around their personas, around their customer base. They produce specific targeted content, and they produce it at volume. So if you're producing video content and you think a 2-minute YouTube video is going to change the game for your business in e-commerce, that's just not going to happen. You've got to turn that 2-minute video into 30 pieces of content, which are short form, medium form, long form, behind the scenes. How did you get to this kind of look, or this particular piece of content that you're shooting? Talking to, maybe getting influencers to get involved in the kind of content planning and creation as well. So there's a lot of layers that you need to put in now. And one of the key areas that people generally lack in this conversation is a good plan up front. So a couple of areas that we like to plan up front is kind of break things down into buckets almost. So you've got static content, so things like, you got your product images, your banner assets, all that kind of stuff. So that's one bucket. The second bucket is anything around motion and movement. So how can you get content that's going to go through your stories, your ads, especially on Facebook and Instagram? Video and ads they just work. They just convert at a higher rate, get more engagement, and are actually cheaper long term if you do invest into video. And then the kind of third area is how are you going to display different types of written form content, through the blog, or through shoppable content, or through good marketing campaigns, through tone of voice on the website. And then the fourth area is podcast. Obviously, you're listening to a podcast now, so you can obviously tell that a lot of people in the modern day are doing podcasts, and audio. I think there's a big drive towards that since the growth of things like Alexa and the other kind of voice technologies that are developing over time. For me, if you're a modern day e-commerce business, you pretty much already know how to produce your product photography and your banner assets. I'm not going to go into too much detail around that. You're probably also dipping your toe in the water with video, but I think one of the common misconceptions about video is that you kind of do one shoot and then that's it. For me, what you need to do is you need to like mass produce as much content and get as much out of that one shoot as possible, especially if you're doing video. So different angles, different products featured, people talking to camera, the brand talking about why you love the product, influencers, even if you've got an influencer or a model on the shoot, what they feel about the product, all the behind the scenes, and just trying to really sweat that asset as much as possible. I think when we're talking about written content, I don't think enough people. I think people write too many blog posts, but don't have an SEO plan in mind. Like if you're writing content on your blog and you're taking the time and effort, whether that's an in-house team or a freelance copywriter or an agency that you're working with, if you're not working to an overall keyword plan for the content that you're producing and producing content based on what people are interested in rather than what you're interested in, you're going to fail. So the best place to start, is for you to take a look at, the kind of short tail, medium tail, and long tail keywords that you're targeting throughout your entire website. Then do the research around where the gaps are. So, for example, if you're selling coats, you might start off with, at a very high level, your category pages are all targeting, coats, long coats, bubble coats, whatever it might be. All of that will be covered mainly from a category page perspective. However, if you're looking at creating content, really you should be looking at more at the medium and long tail. So best winter style or best coats for the snow, that kind of stuff. That's really the kind of content that people need to be producing, making sure you got the keyword volume behind it, and then invest in your content. It should pay dividends over time. And then finally, podcasts. A lot of brands go, I don't really know if this is for me. My demographic is don't listen to podcasts, this, that, and the other. I think a lot more people listen to podcasts now than people think, and a lot of kind of advertising via podcasts is much cheaper. I think that where obviously the modern day is going a little bit more kind of socially responsible, a lot more people having opinions, a lot more kind of a stronger approach towards the company values, and especially with the younger generation, these guys are vetting companies before they're purchasing with them. They're finding out more about how the company works from a production perspective, how the products are produced, are they eco-friendly, are they this, are they that? A lot of people are doing the digging, and I think that with podcasts you can go down a couple of routes. One is like style tips, but another way I actually think is telling the story of your brand. I'm working with a brand at the moment in London, and these guys basically started out. It's a kind of man and wife startup business a couple of years ago, and they've grown from strength to strength, and they're doing really well. And their story is unbelievable, but they're so modest about conveying that story. It's quite, it's quite a difficult thing for them to put across. But I think that if you put yourself out there more in podcast form, especially from an e-commerce retail perspective, I think it just gives you another channel, another platform for you to connect with your user base, with your core customers who keep coming back and they want to learn more about the brand, want to learn more about the business. You can embed it on the site, you can put it through, you can cut up smaller aspects and clips of your podcast and then push it through things like Instagram with some typography over the top. A lot of brands are doing that at the moment. So, it's really that angle. So, and I think when you take a look at that kind of content mix, you kind of sit there and go, wow, this could be, if I'm not careful, it could cost a lot of money, but not necessarily drive a massive amount of ROI, for a particular brand. And to be honest with you, in the modern day, you just have to produce content. There's no alternative. There's no quick fix. If you're not putting in the yards now, and you're not producing the content now, generally speaking, you're not going to get to where you need to be in the future. But how do you do it cost effectively? You don't always need to, obviously I'm work for an agency myself, but you don't always need to work for an agency. I'm currently doing a podcast on an app called Anchor, which doesn't cost anything. I can record, produce and publish a podcast on my own, on my phone. There's a lot of other software out there, like there's an app called Animoto, which allows you to create Instagram stories that are really quick, really sharp. All you need is some, you just write the copy yourself and then drop on some photography, and then pretty much that's it. You're creating your own Instagram stories that do look professional. So I think that if you do the work and actually go out and have a look in the market, there's a lot of things that you can produce yourself in the modern day that you never used to be able to produce. And I think that a lot of brands say, oh, I need to work with an agency, I need to do this, I need to do that. I think you gradually need to scale up to working with an agency, because some brands and businesses just aren't even ready for that yet. I think you need to understand the channels, and you need to be able to talk at a level with your agency to then understand what they're actually saying to you. So down the whole content production angle, you need to understand your marketing mix, your marketing channels, which channels drive your traffic, which channels drive your engagement, which channels, drive your conversion. How are you targeting people? How are you driving long-term value? You've got to answer all these questions before you then start to engage and start to scale up. But there's a lot of things you can do now, without a huge cost attached to it. So, content, I always say this to every business that I work with: if you're not investing in your content, you're not building your brand long term. That's as black and white as that. If you want to build your brand and you want to build your sales long term, you have to invest in content. That was my first podcast, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe, because I have no followers and I'm so desperate. It's unbelievable. No, seriously. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got any questions or anything, just let me know either on Instagram at Case Digital, or find me on LinkedIn, Paul Casey. I'm on Twitter as well. But yeah, just give me a shout on either Instagram or LinkedIn. I'd be really interested to hear your feedback. And let me know what you think about what I've discussed and topics you'd like to discuss in the future. Thank you.